So, good morning. Let us discuss about 17th July 2015 newspaper. The first one is related to the violence in Manipur. So, let us discuss about this. Now, we need to understand some statement that anywhere in a particular region where the sons of the soil are not given enough developmental opportunities and the resources are not spent for their own development, it ultimately drives away them towards violence. So it was a proven history in the case of Assam, and also the Telangana agitation is one or the other way related to the development. So the development is now an important factor with regard to these kind of agitations. Now, in this context, let us understand the history of inner line permit. The inner line permit, it is already existing in various states, that is Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, and Mizoram. So, inner line permit is a kind of a permit or else a permission given to access to the various tribal areas with regard to these states are concerned. So it means it's a special pass or permit to enter into the northeastern states. Now this interline permit was also existing in Manipur before it was curved into a new state. So it was removed in 1915. So later the Manipur state was curved in 1972. Now let us see what happened after 1950. So if you observe the demographics, before 1950, the growth of the population was around 12% in Manipur. After 1950, the growth of population is around 35%. It is due to a migration of the Nepalese, Burmese, etc. into the Impal Valley. And added to that, alienation of the land. So, 1/6 of the land is given away by the government for the exploration of the natural gas and petroleum resources. Now, in this the inner line permit demand has resurfaced in the Manipur. So in this case, what they demand is the Impal Valley, the land sales or transfer of the lands to the non-Manipuris have to be stopped. Already this exists in the case of Himachal Pradesh. If you can recollect the Sonia Gandhi's house issue in Himachal Pradesh. As per the Himachal Pradesh Land Tenancy Act, no outsider can buy the land over there in Himachal Pradesh. So these people also request for Manipur Land Revenue and Reforms Act 1960 to be amended not to allow any outsider to buy the land in Impal. Now the next thing is, in these circumstances, this Manipur Immigrants Act, or else it's called as Manipur Regulation of Visitors, Tenants and Migrant Workers Bill 2015 was passed. It is short of all the things, including the inner line permit. So that's why there was a lot of agitation against that, and it has led to the withdrawal of the bill by the assembly. So let us see a small this thing. So what is an inner line permit? So inner line permit, it is a small pass which is required to access the northeastern states. It was introduced by the British to protect their commercial interests. Now it is mostly used to protect the interests of the tribal people over there. Now it was existing under the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation of 1873. Now available in Manipur till 1915. Now as of now, the Meiteis, because of the huge migration, almost the outsiders are equivalent to the number of Meiteis, the largest faction in Manipur now. And in this case, the demand is to restrict the sale of land to the outsiders and to reimpose the inner line permit. So these are the demands with that. This particular law, that is Manipur Regulation of Visitors, Tenants and Migrant Workers Bill 2013 was passed. It was short of all these things. Now in these circumstances, it was withdrawn recently, and it was promised that within 3 months a new law will be enacted. Now there is a central article, the power of pardon. Power of pardon. It is in relation to the recent Obama's drive to pardon more than 40 people who are even some of them are convicted with life sentences. So in this, it argues about the criminal justice system and what are the lessons India has to draw that. So I made a small mind map for that. So the power of pardon, if you observe, the criminal justice system, what the Obama speech has said is this: the criminal justice system without mercy and compassion is blind and lame. The criminal justice system's objective is to reform and also bring the people into the mainstream of the life, and it shall have a deterrence effect from others still continuing, others committing the same crime again. So it means there shall be a scientific validity that the criminal justice system is able to reduce the incidence of the crime in the country. So a scienticism has to exist in the implementation of the criminal justice laws in the country. Now, in this, the first thing is on what factors we have to build our criminal justice system. The first thing is we shall be able to make a distinction between who are actually intended to make a crime, or who are the regular offenders, and the people who make a crime in the as an accident in the fit of a race. So the second class of the people has a greater chance to reform and regret what they do. So it means if given an opportunity, they can come back into the mainstream social life and they can continue their life further. And the proportionality. It means that the punishment shall not be disproportionate to the crime committed. So it has to be proportional to the particular offense. And the third thing is the deterrence effect. It means the criminal penalties shall stop the recurrence of the same crime. So the proportionality, a deterrence effect, and a distinction of the people who are to, bring them into the mainstream of the life. These are the objectives of the criminal justice system. Now, in this case, opportunity for reformation. If you observe this, many of the convicted people, they after a life, they show a remorse and they have a desire to reform themselves. So in this context, let's observe a severity of punishment versus certainty of punishment. Now in India, if you take, even for the small, nowadays, the excessive rely on the deterrence effect is increasing. Now recent amendment to the Juvenile Justice Act, that is especially after the Delhi rape case, so where the 16 years people, these are also brought under the framework of the offence. Now, let's try to understand the severity of punishment versus certainty of punishment. Now, the severity of punishment will have a less deterrence effect than the certainty of the punishment and also the promptness of the punishment. It means the activeness of the criminal justice system to identify a particular deviation and taking it to the justice that makes a greater deterrence effect when compared to increase the size or increase the punishment for a particular given crime. Now in this context, the compassion and also mercy, why they become important in criminal justice system. The first factor is we have to give the opportunity for reformation, and the second factor is there is a possibility of an element of error. Now in America there was a project called as Innocent Project, which was launched in 1992. So here many people are given opportunity to go through the DNA test to prove their innocence. More than 330 people, I think it's 334. So these convicts got released after they are able to prove their innocence when the DNA test has come into existence. It means that there are many wrong convicts are possible within the judicial system under the criminal justice system. Because of this, the people are being given a chance to reform, and also the people are innocents have to be protected. So the power of pardoning will help in these circumstances. Now, what are the lessons to India in these circumstances? In India, many people are sent for the trial. So the judicial capacities are not appropriate. So the under trials are increasing in Indian jails. And so it is a deviation of the criminal justice system. And the second thing is, the scientificism is missing. No scientific studies exist today to what extent the criminal laws are providing for a deterrence effect. Already we are seeing the criminal defamation law. Is criminal defamation law clearly has a deterrence effect or not? Try to understand that. So it means we have to bring in some scientific studies with regard to the criminal justice system before we blindly follow that. So this is related to the power of pardon given by Raghavan. You can use this for reforming the criminal justice system to bring in your arguments over there. And next is net neutrality. So the Department of Telecommunications, a six-member committee chaired by A.K. Bhargava, it has given its report. What it said is the net neutrality has to be adhered to. Now in this report what it observed is, it made a distinction between a service provider, internet service provider, and a application, content and application provider. An internet service provider providing for plans such as Airtel Zero, etc., they can be permitted. But however, an application owner such as Facebook bringing in same the restricting the access and acting as a gatekeeper, so it has to be avoided. So it means internet.org like these programs which makes one of the service or app provider to regulate the internet use is not a welcomeable sign. And on the other hand, bringing these particular calls through ISPs, using the internet. So what it says is, apps providing for domestic calling should be brought under the regulatory framework. So under the regulatory framework. Next, voice over internet protocols which provide for internet call, that is overseas calls, etc., should be exempted from licensing requirements. It means in more or less it has provided for a free flow of or expansion of the internet in the world. Now there is another article which goes counter to this. Let us understand over here. So the Guardian newspaper, Alan Roos Bridger. So yesterday we have seen the active role of the media in the policy advocacy. Now today he was talking about penetration of internet, the state using the internet to spy on its own citizens. Recently in United States of America, the Freedom Act was enacted replacing the Patriot Act, which has restricted the powers of the state to spy on its citizens. So which is seen as a positive development once the people realized the impact of espionage conducted by the state. And in this context, what he argues is, in the developed countries, the internet is already well spread. Because of the lack of regulation is one of the reasons for the penetration of the internet. But developing countries, they have a space or they have a luxury now to develop the regulatory systems along with the growth of the internet. So if you take the Brazil in this context, recently the Brazil has passed the Internet Bill of Rights, which shows that to what extent the state has to limit the people to the use of the internet. To what extent state has to control that, and what are the rights of the people. It means a clarity is been provided to them. Now on the other hand, the state overreach on the control of the information access, it has to be considered as a detrimental sign. Now it is bringing forth the control over the internet across the world, which the states demand it has to be moved away from the United States of America. The India and USA are being placed alike in this. Already we have seen the so-called as the digital divide, and we saw something called as the data colonialism in the previous articles, if you remember, where the West dominated internet and West dominated the technological giants. They are collecting the data and they are using it for their own development without causing any benefit for the source of the data generators. That is what we described it as data colonialism in the previous articles. So in this, with regard to confining to the media, so the state overreach on regulating the media has to be reduced. And next is a Bill of Rights on the use of the internet. It can be a progressive step. And third thing is the states, so which are the states which are using the spying on the other states, it is purely considered as a overreach of the United States of the America, where it has spied on the various developing and developed nations, including its friends too. So, where it thought that the spying has a positive effect on its commercial interests, which is objected across the world the same. So, these are the things we need to understand. Then, thank you very much. And one thing is, I saw your comments. And what I observed for myself is, those comments are, I mean, what motivates me to do this every day is your comments. Because I feel very happy when I read about them. I am contributing some value to you. And one suggestion which I see across is to give them regularly. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I am missing them. So, because of my personal engagements or something, 99% of the cases from Monday, I'll make sure that you get them regularly by 11:30 in the night at least. Because my classes anywhere gets over by 7:30 and 8 o'clock. So it means morning 2 hours and evening 2 hours if I spare. I think by 11:30 I can deliver you the newspaper articles. And thank you very much for your comments. Have a great day ahead. Thank you very much. Bye bye.